Thank you all for joining me. So I would like to start with two avodot that I did with two different women. I had an avodah that I did on myself, like an incident that happened this week, but I didn't do the avodah fully. I want to see how it progresses, and then I'm going to share it with you. So I'd rather share something that actually progressed in a much better way than my avodah that's like halfway done. Okay, so first of all, when I say that I can't do something, what am I actually saying? I'm saying that God can't do it. It means that I don't believe that God has the ability to make it happen. Hey, Ellen, it's great to have you here also. Thank you for coming. Like, so when I say I can't, so it means that Hashem doesn't have the power in this world to do what needs to happen. And it's as if I'm saying he doesn't exist in my life. So this is actually an avodah that I did, and it was really good. The other day, Ralph's brother, Elliot, came from the States. They flew in and they were arriving 8 o'clock in the morning. This was like 2 days ago. Elliot and Lori, they're here for a bar mitzvah. They're coming here for their grandson's bar mitzvah, and they arrived. So Ralph told me, you know what, I want to take the car to pick my brother up. We only have one car. And that was the day I'm organizing and planning the bar mitzvah, that I had all the suppliers coming into Jerusalem to meet with me. I had a lot of appointments. Like, I planned the day in Jerusalem to be able to meet everyone and go through the schedules and go through every day, etc. And here he's telling me, Michal, I want the car, and I want to go pick him up from the airport. So my first instinct was to say, I'm sorry, you can't have the car. Like, I'm working, I'm busy, I planned, I made schedules, etc. But saying that would basically be saying that God doesn't exist in my life because I can't this and I can't that. There's no such thing as we can't. So instead I said, you want the car? Great, it's yours. And I thought to myself, what are my options? And there were so many options. I was able to take the train into Jerusalem, and then from the train, take a cab and just cab it everywhere. I can ask my friend who goes into Jerusalem every day, could I join her for the ride? That means leaving a little bit earlier. I could have pushed my appointments a little bit so that when he came back with the car, I could have taken the car. All these different solutions that we find when we say we can't, these solutions are an indication that Hashem is in our life, that Hashem is infinite, that Hashem is all powerful, that he could do, that he could work his magic in our life. So when we come across a situation, so immediately I told him, like, I didn't even tell him I have appointments, I have this, I have that, this is what I planned. I said, oh, you want to pick him up with the car? Great, take the car. And it ended up that, like, a couple of hours later, he told me, oh, at the end, I don't need the car. Shlomo is going to take me to the airport because Elliot's renting a car and we're just going to go back with his car. And Shlomo's flying down south. I said, great. Ralph had no idea what was going on in my head in terms of, what plans I had. But immediately when he was telling me he needs the car, my mind started to work on what other solutions does Hashem have in store for me. When I say there's no solution, there's no way, it's impossible, I basically am saying I don't believe Hashem exists in my life. And this is an avodah that I did, this past week, and I'm trying to allowing myself to be surprised, to be able to not have everything go according to plan, because knowing that Hashem has his plans also, and let his plans happen. And her name is Esther, and she is thinking of she wants to give a kidney. It says my internet connection is unstable. Yikes. Okay, I hope you guys.
Yeah, I got cut off. I didn't hear what you said before this.
Oh, okay. So I did another avodah with a friend, Esther, that is actually called Esther.
Right.
Okay, just put yourself on mute now, because otherwise there's noises in the background. And she's a friend that when she was younger, she had like 4 children and she got pregnant right away, and she couldn't handle it and she did an abortion. And it was like within 2 months, and the rabbi said okay, and it was fine and whatever. But right after she did the abortion, it was a horrible time for her. She felt bad and guilty, and it was like really a scar for her. And she decided, in order to make amends for what she did, she wants to donate her kidney. And now, after she finished having children, she's older, and she is in one of my classes in Michal Tawil, and we connected, and we do avodah together. So she decided that she's going to give her kidney. In Israel, there's a place, of kidneys donation from a live donor. And she started to go through the process, and they asked her, who do you want to give to? And she said, my only criteria is I want to give to a Jew. Like, she doesn't want her kidney to go to an Arab, I guess. And they called her up a week ago, and they told her, we found a perfect match for you, and you could start the process, and you could start doing the serological checkings and the blood tests and everything. Like, she already did the preliminary, but now, because they found her a match, she could do the very in-depth ones. So she said, oh, who is it? They said a man who's divorced, he has no children, he's 60 years old, and he has been on dialysis for a couple of years, and he really needs it. And when the hospital hung up, she was thinking, like, no, I don't want to give it to a man who's divorced and doesn't have children. I want to give it to someone who's going to have a continuation in his life, someone who his family could enjoy his kidney. Like, this guy's never going to have children. And like, you know what? She said, I want to give it to a mother or a father that have children. And then she thought to herself, but how could I say something like that? How do I know what this guy is going to accomplish in his life? How do I know what he's going to, do and create, and how much suffering he's in? I could alleviate it. So maybe I should just not listen to my voices inside of me and just give it and say, whatever Hashem is going to decide, that's what's going to happen. And she was going this way, back and forth and back and forth. And she brought it up in the class. And Michal told her, you know what your avodah over here is? Your avodah is to be able to accept the place where you are happily, to be able to say, this is where I am. I would like to donate my kidney to either a mother or a father that are Jewish, that have children, whether their children are young or old. That's what you want. Does the thought of that make you happy? She said, yeah, the thought of that makes me happy. So Michal told her, just ask, say, Hashem, I would like to donate to someone who has children, who has continuation. So my kidney is going to go and be able to benefit a lot of people. And tell the people in the kidney donors, tell them that, you would like to give it to someone with children, not an older man that has no children. So she started to say, but what about, what this guy might achieve in his life and what Hashem has in store for him. And Michal cut her off, and she said, your avodah is to accept the place where you are and live with it. Hashem wants us to be happy with what we do, with what we have. He wants us to be happy with it. The place where you are, the level where you are now, is a level of wanting to give to someone who has children. Accept it. Don't kill yourself. Don't flagellate yourself. Don't, beat yourself up. Don't expect things from yourself on a level that you're not. You're not at that level, and you might never be at, but you need to give your kidney at the level where you're happy, where you're not tormented, where you're not second guessing and double guessing and trying to figure out. Just go with what makes you happy. So that was one avodah that I heard that was really beautiful. And the beautiful part about it is this woman does tend to constantly ask, what's the highest level of being that I should be? And let me try to be there. And what that does is she's skipping all the steps, the small steps on the way that brings us up to that high level, or I don't even know if it's a higher level, but she's trying to skip, and in that torments herself and makes herself miserable, and she's in an existence where she's not happy. She's not happy. And that's why it's not her madrega. It's not her level. That's not where she's at now. Now, there was something really interesting that they discovered in the in David's city, right underneath the Beit HaMikdash. King David had his had his castle. It was where Mayan HaShiloach is. That was where Jerusalem's waterway was. And the Kohanim came down to Mayan HaShiloach to take water up for the Beit HaMikdash. So the archaeologists found steps going up to the Beit HaMikdash. And how did these steps look like? These steps were like 5 inches high. And then the step was like 5 yards long. In other words, the steps were very short, right? Was like a very short distance to go up. But when you needed to walk to the next steps, you had 5 yards. And David HaMelech was trying to indicate with that when we're going up to Beit Hashem, when we're going up to the house of God, we need to do it really slowly. When we're going up and trying to get up to our next level, it needs to happen a short jump, a very short jump, and then we stay like on a flat ground for a while. And what are we supposed to be doing when we stay on this flat ground for that while? What we're supposed to be doing is we're supposed to be praying. We're supposed to be praying when we get up from one level and go to the next level. We have a long time for prayer, to pray that we'll be successful on that level, that our heart will be totally shalem with it, that it will embrace that level, that level is that we're ready for it, that it fits us. And that was the going up to Beit Hashem. David didn't want us to get up there very fast. He could have done very steep, big, high steps, but no. We need to go when we are trying to climb our way. We need to try to take it slowly and short steps, and to just lishhot. Lishhot means to take our time and stay on that flat level right after the step that we jump. Okay, so now, another thing that Michal told Esther, who with the kidney transplant, is all her doubts come from the inability to accept her current place. In other words, she needed to accept, this is what I want, this is my level, this is where I'm at, and I'm okay over here. Now, one of the things that we're learning now, like in the teachings that I'm teaching us, is we're not here to solve our life's problems or to give us a better quality of life. Why are we doing all this learning and these avodah? The goal of these classes are to meet God in our lives, to get closer to Him, and to live with Him in our life. This is the goal to the classes. How did we used to live our lives before that? We used to live, like before these classes, we used to live our life like just to try to survive, or in the technical, or we think what we see in our eyes is all that we have over here. But in these classes, what I want us to do, and with the avodah that we're going to be doing, I want us to be able to experience the beyond, to see beyond what we have over here. We have a spiritual life, and we can live in this spiritual reality, right? I want us to leave the surface of our life. The surface is the shetach, the shitchiyut. When you say someone is shitchi, we say that he's superficial. We want to leave the superficiality of our life and the thinking that I'm the center of the world, that what I see over here is all what we have. The feeling of like our feelings of being hurt. He cheated me. This wasn't fair. This wasn't right. He shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't do that. All these type of sentences are nonsenses that are really not are relevant to us, and we're going to be leaving them because we want to get to another level of sticking to Hashem, of being with Hashem. But we can't jump these levels. We need to go up very, very slowly, as I said, like in the Beit HaMikdash. So now I want us to learn something about a different name of Hashem. How are we going to get to know Hashem in that way? And how is that going to help us live with Him in a much closer way? Okay, now when we see an event that happens to me today, right? And we are triggered by it, the cause of that trigger is a trauma that happened to me previously. When when we are faced in our life with something that's not good for us, that triggers us, that traumatizes us, we need to realize that that is the minute that we need to grab up. And that is going to be the minute of this trauma or this trigger. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples right away. But I just want to give the idea, and then I'm going to start with examples. We need to know that this minute is going to be a place where we can go up those 5 inches onto the next step. So I need to grab that moment, the moment of stress, of trauma, of triggering, of annoyance, of anger. We're going to grab onto it and know that it's a time and an opportunity for growth, for development, and for change. Okay. Now, a great example. There's a woman, and her name is Penina in class, and she has 7 children. So she tries to plan her Fridays, that the Fridays are going to go, smooth and roll very, and roll without any frustrations or anger. So she starts Thursday already preparing, and then Friday she sends her kids. She has 7 children. She sends them all to school, to Gan, and then she does a simple Shabbat. She finishes baking, and by the time they come home, the house is ready for Shabbat. And she bathes them and dresses them, and everyone is ready. Her husband goes to shul. She lights her candles, and then she goes into her room to rest a little bit. And when she goes into her room to rest, she is able to renew her strength. So all her kids are reading inside, taking care of themselves. And 15, 20 minutes before her husband comes home, she goes and starts to chop up a salad. So they'll have a salad for the meal. Now, what triggered her? Her husband comes home and she's in the kitchen, still didn't finish chopping up the salad. Wow, I hear a bird at the window. I think you heard it too. So she's chopping up the salad, and her husband comes in, and she hears him mumbling Eshet Chai, like just mumbling it. And she's continuing to chop the salad, and he starts making kiddush. He doesn't wait for her. He starts making kiddush. Now, Penina said that the day was perfect, and she was perfectly happy. And all of a sudden, she hears the kiddush, her husband saying it without calling her, without telling her, I'm about to make kiddush. And this is a traumatic moment for her. This is a place where she is totally triggered in a very big way, She crashes. Now, this is the minute, this is the second that we need to grab this opportunity with both hands and go up to our next level. Hashem is giving us a situation, and he's telling us, you have an opportunity to grow now. You could either grow or stay in the same place. Now, for Penina, staying in the same place would have been going out and telling her husband, what do you mean by this? I worked so hard for Shabbat. I got everything ready. You're starting Kiddush without me? No can do. We won't have any of it, and I'm not standing for it. And if you're going to start Kiddush, I'm going in, and you do it with your, that would have been staying in the same level. And we want her to be able to grab this opportunity and see how she could go up those 5 inches. So now at this point, we're going to discover what the next 5 inches are. What are these 5 inches? First of all, it's a realization that we need to realize that this world is totally not a luxury cruise. We're not in a luxury boat with a luxury cruise where we have people fanning us so the flies won't come, and we're bought plaza and plaza of food and no worries, and we're taken from place to place, and and everything of what we dreamed up happens to us. This is not what this world is about. This world is much more beyond than what we see. And what we need to realize is we didn't come over here to have pleasure and fun. We came here to grow those 5 centimeters. That's going to be our joy in life. That is going to help us feel empowered and actualized and give us a high. Our ability not to succumb to the triggers that happened, but we came to this world to go the next 5 inches up, and that's what is going to give us the ultimate pleasure, right? And what we need to do is, in this stress, in this trauma, in this kind of pressure moment, we have an opportunity to meet ourselves. And that's the 5-inch challenge. And we need to not be scared to meet ourselves, because if we don't meet ourselves at that minute of what is happening to me and what's my next step and how am I going to handle this kind of trigger, then there's no going up. And we're also not here in this world to have like a better quality of life, to have things, everything fall into place, like an amazing quality of life. Things are going to work out, like we're not. Sometimes people come to Michal and say, my son has eczema, or my son wets the bed. What should we do to make him to make him stop? That's like trying to solve problems in this world. We're trying to bring ourselves closer to Hashem, and in a minute we're going to learn how we're going to be doing this. We want to bring ourselves closer to Hashem, not to solve these problems in our world. Now, if we want to, through our child's, let's say, bedwetting, get closer to Hashem, then we'll figure out what the avodah is and go up to the next level. But we're not here to like create a perfect life for ourselves. We're here to use the situations to be able to get closer to Hashem, to go up those levels to the Beit HaMikdash. We want to go up in the direction of the holy, right? So let's say this woman, let's take the example of Pnina, who her husband did not wait for her kiddush. What did she discover about herself? She discovered that when she wakes up in the morning on Friday and she prepares Shabbat, she makes Shabbat for her husband. And she doesn't make Shabbat for herself, she makes it for him. Now, when we make Shabbat for ourselves, clear and free, and very important rule that we should all know, and I've said it a couple of times, but I'm saying it again. When we make Shabbat, we need to think to ourselves, first, what do I want to make for myself for Shabbat? What is my favorite dish? What do I love to eat the most? What is going to make me the happiest to make for Shabbat? And that is the first thing we make for Shabbat. We do not make anything for anyone before we make a dish that we love first. But this woman, Penina, she discovered in her head that she wakes up and she says, I'm ready to do everything for my husband, right? I'm making Shabbat for him. I'm taking care of his children. But when I need him, I want him to deliver. He can't just take from me and not give in return. And that's what she meant about herself. Now, it means that she's in a level where she doesn't realize that each and every one of us is responsible for our own internal well-being. And that is the first cardinal rule of our avodah. There's no such thing that I'm responsible for everyone's well-being. I'm not. I'm totally not. I am responsible only for my own well-being, and I'm also responsible for the well-being of those who don't know how to do for themselves. The minute the people around me could take care of themselves, but let's say my child is 2 years old, I am responsible for feeding them and giving them, and making my child an egg. The minute I can teach him to make, so Sarah asks, what if your ratzon is to make for your family? Sarah, how do I read that? Do me a favor and just resend it. But I think the gist of it was, what if your ratzon is to make for your family, like to have you have your whole family and you have yourself, and you could totally, and most of our ratzon is to make for our family, because I think that our family gives us a reason to be able to give in life, a reason to keep on living, because we have giving in us. Our family also, having a family is the ability to have us as like a kind of pipeline where God's abundance comes through us to them. However, there's us first, and I want us, in preparation for Shabbat, to think about what we want for ourselves, what food, something for Shabbat that's going to make me happy, and do it first thing. Do it number one. So you're saying, what if I don't care what I eat? Then I want you to think about what you want to eat, nevertheless, regardless. It's not, first of all, it's not true that we don't care what we eat, because I think food represents really life. Sustenance represents like our nourishing ourselves so we could continue with life. I mean, this is something that we discuss a lot in my family. I'm going to give an example. My father's like loves to eat and loves food and loves life and is heavy and big, and but you know I think his love for food and his love for life come from the same source. And other him, my mother is like very skinny and doesn't like to eat. And I feel like there's this. I have not made a how do you say? I didn't make a study of this at all. But my mother is more like she's skinny and lean, and there's something about her of not of being constricted, like holding herself and constricting. And there's something about not loving life. Like I think food represents life. And Michal Paritz is telling us, you need to give life to yourself first before you give anyone. Yes, we love to cook and it makes us happy and we make everyone what they love and blah, blah, blah. Think of something that you want for yourself and do it for yourself first. Do it for yourself first. And that gives you a much more expanded countenance to face the world, to face everyone. Okay, so the cardinal rule is I'm only responsible for myself and only for those who don't know how to do it for themselves. And the minute I could teach my child to make his own eggs, he could be responsible for his own well-being. That's why it's such a chesed to teach our children to be independent and to be able to do for themselves and be able to do on their own and to take care of themselves, because we're allowing them to be responsible for their own good. They're not dependent on us to be responsible for their own good. And it's very, very empowering. So the cardinal rule is we do things for ourselves and our well-being. And even if we do it for others, it's for us. Sarah, like what you were saying about, cooking for your family, even if you're doing it for them, it's still for us. What this woman didn't know, what Penina didn't know, is she has a theory that doesn't work. She does for him, and when she needs from him, he will do for her, right? We need to take this kind of theory as, it's a kind of theory that I call it the theory of like compatibility. Like, what name is it? Like, I do for you, you do for me. It's like, anyone has the name for it? Doing it.
Well, usually people say like, you wash my back, I wash yours.
Right.
But it's like a tit for tat, you
That's
know?
exactly what it
I'll
is.
do for you, you do for me, right? Okay, there's a word that I'm looking for, but it doesn't come. But yeah, I would, you wash my back, I wash your back.
Reciprocal.
Reciprocal, great. That's the word I was looking for. So this woman, she has a theory that everything in life needs to be reciprocal. This theory, we need to take it and throw it in the garbage. It creates huge problems in life, the reciprocal theory, because it creates us wanting something from the other. You hear the kiddush starting, take your knife, throw it down, go inside and listen to the kiddush. You don't need to wait for me, call me, do this for me, do that. No, take care of your own good. You want to hear kiddush from your husband? Put down your knife, leave the salad, go inside, listen to the kiddush. Now, I want to introduce another name of Hashem that we're going to start working with, and we're going to expand on, and we're going to bring into our life. So first of all, there were many names for Hashem that we learned about already. We learned about Kavod and Shalom and Emet and Makom and Ein Sof, which is eternity. These are all different names for Hashem. Like in the beginning of the class, when I was saying we have like Ein Sof, eternity amount of solutions to any kind of problem that we have. So we don't have to start like fighting and nitpicking and yes, fair and no fair and you should and you could and you never and you didn't. No, we're not having any of that, because God is eternity and we have an eternity amount of solutions. So these are the names we have for Hashem. And Hashem has another name as well. And the name of Hashem is, I think many of us didn't know it. It was a name that I knew, but it was hardly ever in my life. But it's called Mesovev hasibot. Mesovev hasibot. I'm going to explain what it means in the larger way, and then in the more like verbal way. And I want to explain the idea. What does it mean, Mesovev hasibot? It means he's the first cause. He's the cause of everything. He's the primal cause. He's the original cause. Hashem is the primal cause, original cause, or the first cause. What does that mean? Literally, it means that Hashem is the one. Mesovev makes everything turns around. He causes everything to turn around. Mesovev is to turn. Hasibot is the reason. He is the reason that everything in this world turns around and functions. Hashem takes each and every one of us, and we're all a cog. Did anyone have a question? I heard someone's. Okay, yikes. Whoever is not on mute, just please put it on mute. Someone just got off mute. And anyone that wants to ask a question could get off mute. No, not a problem. Okay, thanks. Because I'm taping this on the computer, I don't know how to get to, let me just see. Oh, I see the participants here. And yes, I can mute. Oh, and Sarah, I'm muting you. No. Why? Hold on. Okay, fine. I found out how to mute. Oh, yikes. No. All right. Okay. Close. Okay, got it. It's going to take me a while to learn how to use the computer again, but we will do it. Okay, so it means that Hashem, we're all cogs in this big machine that in this world that Hashem created. And God is the one that makes the cogs go around. And we're like, a cog has like these teeth, and we're all interconnected to all the other cogs in the machine, to all the people. And when one turns, everyone turns, which is why in the dance of anger, they always say, if you change one step in the dance, everyone else's steps are going to change as well. Now, Hashem takes each and every one of us, and he gives us a mission, a description of what we're to be doing in this world. And Hashem is above us, and we cannot live a second without him. Because if we think we can overcome our fears, our imaginations, our anger, our addiction without him, it is impossible. We cannot get out of any life's problem without Hashem. And one of the elements that I have over here, when we say that we want to go up in the next 5 inches, that we want to go up, there's much prayer that has to happen in that whole long walk to the next step. And that prayer is necessary for us not to go back, not to go back to, away from the holy, away from the Beit HaMikdash. So what we need to have in us when we want to go up to the next step is 3 things. 1, desire. The second is prayer. And the third is practice. But if we don't pray, we can't move in this situation. So Hashem is the one turning the cogs, right? And like the wheels, and we're all synchronized. We're all synchronized. And everyone has a different mission. One likes to be an early childhood educator. One is a teacher. One believes in family and togetherness. Everyone brings their mission in this world to fruition different than anyone else. But we all have a mission in this world, and that's what we're trying to do. Now, a huge rule in this is we're never allowed to look at the other cogs in the machine, because Hashem is turning it. Someone else's wheel is none of our business. And we need to be looking at ourselves and saying, what does it mean to be in my cog? What does it mean to be in my cog? Okay. Barbara, hi, how are you? Okay. Okay, great. So Barbara, I just muted you because you came in and there was noise. So what does it mean to be in my cog? this is a big one, and I want everyone to really try to internalize it. It means that every action I do is an action that I am happy to do and that it is mine, that I own it. Being in my cog means, like, let's say to do the Shabbat cooking, right? It's an action that I am happy to do, and it means that I own it and it's mine. If there's an action that I do and it does not make me happy, then it's not mine. Then I shouldn't be doing it. It means that it doesn't belong to me. Let's say it's before Shabbat, it's 6 o'clock, and I didn't make a cake for Shabbat. And my daughter comes and tells me, Ima, you really need to make a cake. Like, we don't have a cake for Shabbat. If I go and make the cake and I'm not happy there, then it means that I did it because in my head, I have a picture of how Shabbat needs to look like. And Shabbat needs to be with a cake. And I want to worship the picture that I have in my head. I go and make the cake. I am not doing what I want to do. I'm not doing what makes me happy. I'm not doing, because at 6 o'clock before Shabbat, it's not something, I don't want to be making a cake. So if I do make a cake, I'm actually worshiping a kind of a picture that I have of Shabbat. I'm actually like worshiping idols, literally. So this is what it's called when we say sameach bechelko, people who are happy with their lot, with their part. It means not doing anything unless you're happy doing it, but nothing. That's my chelek. That's my lot in life. And I want to be happy with it because I did it with love. And we never should be looking at any other person. What is the other person doing? We shouldn't be saying anything about anyone else. Like, when our children come, let's say home on Friday or whatever, and one of them plops on the couch, and in our head, we shouldn't be having, like, in our heads, it's not for us to ask, why is he on the couch? Why isn't he moving? Why isn't he helping? That's his chelek. He's happy there. That's his level. Are you, what you're doing? Continue doing it, right? And also asking our children, what you do, are you happy doing it? If you are, then it's your chelek, it's your part. Then do it. Because if I'm not happy making dinner, then don't make dinner. Or I could say to everyone, guys, let's make dinner together. I'm making a salad. That's what makes me happy. And you make a salad. It could also very well be, salad will be the only thing you have for dinner, but it's a very interesting experiment to see if you do what makes you happy, what's going to happen with everyone else, right? Because no one owes us anything. And there might be nothing but salad, but it's an opportunity to see what could happen. Like one of the kids of the woman coming to Michal Tawil's class, like he told his mother, Ma, I really would love to help you. And I start sweeping the house, but halfway through, I just don't feel like doing it anymore. So what am I supposed to do? So Michal Tawil told him, like, the minute you don't feel like you want to do it anymore, just gather the dirt that you have there and just leave the rest. Because we should be asking ourselves, am I doing this? And is this making me happy? Like, if we would put ourselves in God's place, God, and we were God, would we want to see people saying like, oh, I have to do this. Oh, like, no. He wants us to go about in this amazing world that he created in a very happy and fulfilled way. And it's, and he doesn't want to see sourpusses, because any kind of, soury faces is an indication that he doesn't exist in our life. So it's not what he wants. It's not what he wants. Also, when we teach our children, like, let's say when we give them prizes or punishment to clean the house or whatever, we teach them that it's not a pleasant thing to clean the house. And to make it pleasant, we're giving you a prize, like to sweeten the chore, the burden. Whenever we give kids prizes or punishments, it's like makes whatever it is a burden. Now, at times, hi, Ralph. Not sure. Bye. Have a good day. Okay. Sometimes we see people that are older, but we see them as immature. We see them as immature. And in every one of us also, there are parts that are not so mature. there are moments in life. Okay, now what is this immaturity all about? This immaturity comes from times in our lives where we had the ability to grow and we didn't grab it. Like this woman whose husband didn't wait for her for kiddush. There was an opportunity to grow and you don't take it. And then an immaturity is imprinted in us, which is why sometimes we just see older adults and we're surprised. Like once there was a time that we called it that their body has grown, but in spirituality, they didn't grow. It's like the bodily growth and the spiritual growth are not, how do you say? There's a word for it, are not synchronized. They're not on the same level. Because just as, and our body now grows involuntarily, but for our spiritual growth, we need to work. And our spiritual growth needs to catch on to our physical growth. And I gave this example, like when we see a 25-year-old mother yelling at her children, it's congruent with the spiritual and the physical is fine. But when we see a 60-year-old, a 50-year-old yelling at her children, the physical and spiritual growth is just, there's a huge discrepancy over there. So part of this immaturity is because of certain opportunities we had to grow and we just didn't take it. So now I want to explain, through this woman who her husband didn't call her for kiddush, right? What is that called? Why was this an opportunity to grow? And why did it happen that she didn't grow? There's a reason why we don't take the next step. And that reason is because this woman had a picture in her head of how things are supposed to look like. How are things supposed to look like? A husband is supposed to call his wife in to make kiddush. And it didn't happen like she imagined it to be. Now, what does that mean? It means that I have a drawing in my head. I have a picture in my head. A man who makes kiddush calls his wife. That's it. So I said that this woman who felt upset and hurt and angry and somewhat traumatized by her husband not calling her in for kiddush, that is her picture. And when in reality something happens totally different than her picture, instead of connecting to Hashem and saying, this is God's reality in this world, the reality is my husband didn't call me. Now it means that as a cog in God's wheel, that's the reality Hashem put in my world. It's time for me to grow up to my next level. And this is the reality he put in my world. And instead of being traumatized, it's time to ask, it's time to relinquish the picture. I want to give another example. I used to remember when I had a picture in my head, when a husband is late, he should call his wife. When my husband comes home late, let him come late, I don't mind. But I want him to just call me and let me know. So I have a picture in my head of a late husband needing to call his wife when he comes home. And when he doesn't, it doesn't fit that picture, the image in my head. And that's when I become upset and angry and aggravated because reality doesn't match the picture that I had. So it's a picture that I created on how things need to happen. So every situation in our life that occurs that annoys us is always a picture we build in our heads, and we expect reality to match it. In other words, we want God to function in this world and give us the pictures that we have in our head. But really, it's supposed to be the other way around. God is going to give us what we have in this world, and we are going to bring ourselves to be able to function in Hashem's world. Now, a woman in Michal Tawil said that she was sitting around with her husband and her children, and one of her daughters came and said, you guys shortchanged me and you didn't give me, and you like the other kids more than you liked me, and they got more and I got less. And this woman whose name is Dahlia, she told her daughter, you're looking at everything you didn't get. How about look at what you did get? And if you decide to look at it that way, then you're going to be miserable and you're making yourself miserable. So before I continue even on this whole picture that we have and the imagine and pictures that we build up in our heads, I want to make something very clear, and I want to give advice to everyone. I feel like the kind of learning we're doing here is learning on a very high level. And sometimes we feel like analyzing the people around us or telling them what their avodah is or telling them how they could create a better life for themselves. However, it's something that we should never, never do unless someone begs us for information or begs us for help or begs us because they want to do the avodah. Like, I do not give advice to my daughters. I will watch how they function. I will never, unless they come to me and say, Ima, what do you think? Ima, could you help me? Ima, what is my avodah? I will not put my, like, I will not tell my daughter how to run her house, how to raise her children, how to be with her husband. I will not tell unless she comes to me and says, I want help. I want you to help me figure it out. Because people who don't ask us, they don't have the vessel to accept these amazing lights that we have. I feel like this learning, this avodah is a big light in this world. And when we try to pour this light into people who are not ready to receive it, it's not appreciated, it shatters, it's not taken seriously, it's not treated properly. And I think that it's something that we need to be aware of. So only if only if people come and ask, it means that they have a container to allow this light to fit into it. Now, I'm going back to the situation that we have in our head. Every time we have a situation that we're angry, upset, disappointed, triggered, traumatized by, the reason we have it is because we have a picture in our head of how things are supposed to be. Like, how is my husband supposed to behave? How is my house supposed to look like? Like, the food needs to be ready, and we become enslaved to the picture. How my husband should walk in. And if it doesn't happen like my picture, I blow up, or I become triggered, or I become depressed, or I become, any traumatized, or any of the above. Now, who taught me about these pictures? Who was the one who taught me like that a house is supposed to be clean? How did these pictures come into happen? When I have these pictures in my head, I am incessantly worshiping avodah zarah. Incessantly I'm worshiping these pictures. Now, in this parasha, in Parashat Be'ahalotcha, we have a very interesting occurrence. We have two nuns, the letter nun, and they're opposite, and they sort of like parenticize a pasuk that pasuk, the couple, it's like 3-4 pasukim in and of itself, it's like their own parasha. And the pasukim that we say when we take out the Torah every week on Shabbat, Vayhi binso Aaron vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai veyafutzu oivecha veyanusu misanecha mipanecha. These are the pasukim we say that we have the letter nun, and the middle of the Hebrew alphabet. When you take all the end letters, it's like the middle of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, what's nun also is the number 50. Now, when we were coming from Pesach to Shavuot, to Matan Torah, we went up 49 days. There were 49 levels of Kedusha, and we wanted to reach the 50th day, and the 50th day was when we got the Torah. Now, there's a problem with that because there is an opposite way of going also. There's a way of going more to an existence that is opposite of holy, and we call that like an impure way, doing things that are that takes us away from Hashem. That's going in the opposite direction. The rabbis say that when the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim, they were in the 49th level of Tum'ah, and from their journey from Mitzrayim to Har Sinai, they went from the 49th like levels of impurity, they went up to the 49th level of purity, and by getting the Torah, they reached the ultimate in Shavuot. Now, what did we learn on Shavuot? We learned that that we need to, and this is something that we've learned from Pesach to Shavuot, that we have the Torah that Hashem gave us, and we have the Torah that our parents gave us. We have the Torah that we got from Hashem, and we also have the Torah that comes through our family, our parents, down through the generations. Now, there are Noon is also for Navi, for prophecy. And there's something prophetic about, there's something of, we could become prophets when we're able to take the Torah that our parents gave us and utilize it in our life. There are many prophets, and they try to tell us about the kind of principles that they lived their life by, or what are the principles that a Jewish person is supposed to live his life by, right? Now, some of the principles, but Habakkuk Hanavi said the principle that he believes a Jewish person, he said, if I needed to give you one principle, then I will say the following pasuk, Tzadik be'emunato ichyeh, that has a double meaning. The pshat of the pasuk, Tzadik be'emunato ichyeh, means that the ultimate person and the tzaddik needs to live with principles of integrity and reliability, right? A person of integrity, keeping your word. And also tzaddik be'emunato ichyeh is a tzaddik needs to live a lot of faith. Now, idol worship, worshiping that picture we have in our head, is the opposite of living within emunah. And the opposite noons is an indication of we could have a picture in our head and then be totally pulled down and living in an existence that is not uplifting, if I want to say it kindly. And the noon that is right way, it's a noon that allows us to reach prophecy, allows us to grab onto emunah, allows us to be able to see what our parents' Torot are and implement them in our lives. Now, if the pictures we have in our head are pictures that bring us to negativity, so it's idol worship. And every picture I have in my head is considered worshiping the Baal, worshiping the Baal, like worshiping the pictures in my head, because I'm worshiping a different, my picture is different than the reality in front of me. Now, the reality that God put in front of me, like my husband making kiddush without me, right? That's the reality I need to grab onto, incorporate it into my life, know that it's Hashem's way of wanting me to climb up to the next step and go and do my avodah from there. Like the idol worship is my husband should wait for me. My child should get up and help. All the shoulds in our life. All the shoulds in our lives are actually a picture. Guys, someone, okay. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, Paulie, I'm muting you. Great, okay, well, that was noisy. So all the shoulds in my life, they're the avodah zarah, right? My husband should wait for me. My husband should call me. Right? A guy, I want to give another example of a guy who said that when he was a child, he came home. As a child, he would come home every day and his mother was there to greet him, and there was food, and she had a happy smile, and he felt very safe and secure. And one day, he came home from school and she wasn't there. And that was a point that he would say that he started to feel very unstable in life, and it deteriorated him throughout his whole life, right? Now, one day, the mother wasn't there, so the picture that he was used to was gone. The picture that he created in his head that actually existed every day wasn't there. And what happened when he walked in? God had another picture for him. And why? Why does Hashem have other pictures for us? It's to make us grow, like in this instance of this boy. His mother wasn't there, and it's an invitation. You can manage alone. You are competent. You're capable. It's an opportunity to be creative. Every day, we're used to, I'm used to my mother coming, but now there's a different story, and you can learn to discover your abilities And one of the abilities that we need to embrace is the ability to be surprised. To be surprised. We're surprised with whatever Hashem throws at us. We're not upset. We can learn to live in a kind of surprised way, because when it surprises us, then we look at it as an adventure, and we look at it as an opportunity to climb up the steps to the Beit HaMikdash. It is also an opportunity for us to know that with every step we go up, Hashem gives us our strength to solve our own problems. So what strength can we take out of ourselves to solve this problem? Oh, hold on 1 minute. 1 second. It's my next class. 1 minute. לואיזה, אני באמצע שיעור. מה את רצית?
טוב, לא, כלום. אני אדבר איתך אחרי זה כשאני...
אני אראה
יש
אותך.
שיעור הערב, נכון?
כן, כן, יש שיעור. להתראות.
אז אני אדבר איתך אחר כך.
ביי.
ביי, נוטי, תודה. ביי.
Okay, so my next point that I wanted to make, I'm going to be stopping the class right here. I'm stopping the class with a question, and we are going to continue this in 2 weeks, because next week I have a big bar mitzvah here. Stopping off with, what is the difference between a Torah that we have and a picture that we create in our head? Like, let's say we say the house needs to be clean, because my mother's Torah was that a house always needs to be clean. How are we going to know if something is a Torah or a picture? Stay tuned for that, because that's going to take like a while to explain. But I want us to be able to walk in this week and try to listen to ourselves of seeing things that move us, knowing that that's our next step, and allowing Hashem to be able to allow his reality to be in our life. And like one of my daughters, her name, like my daughter Shalhevet, her husband is a tour guide. And the reason he became a tour guide was because he wanted to work 10 days a month, because that's enough for them to live on. And the other 20 days he wanted to spend with his children. He didn't like the fact that his father worked incessantly 24/7 to bring in a living, and he wants to enjoy his children. So when COVID came, also he couldn't be a tour guide anymore. That's God's reality in this world. Now, it means that Hashem gave her an opportunity to manage with less, be able to see if there's anything that she can do to bring into the family. It was a whole opportunity. Now, their picture of what they have, of what they wanted to be, his picture was, I want to be there 20 days a week and spend time with my children, and they homeschool their children. But God's reality was different. So are you going to be traumatized by God's reality and start going into depression and into fear and into anger and into anxiety? Or are you going to embrace God's picture, allow it to surprise you, and see what you're going to do with it? Next week, we're going to learn about what is the difference between a Torah and a picture.